Hi, this is Naroki5. I am going to be doing this until I die or I find something better to do. So please help me achieve this personal and, I think, noble objective by contributing to my Patreon or Subscribe Star. Link is down below. Every little bit helps. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Red Pill Nation Hangout. This number 385. We're doing it the day after. Just gonna make this a short story here before we actually get into the show. Why are we doing this Monday instead of Sunday? Well, I got a call from the company, and they wanted me to go out. They wanted me to go out today instead of Wednesday. And I got myself packed up, got all my gear set up, including, by the way, taking down both my laptops and putting them in a separate container to get back out to camp. And I get a call back at about I think just before 9 o'clock saying that they cut back again and I wasn't being sent out. So I didn't really feel like unpacking all of my stuff and restarting the show after I pretty much had canceled everything because of the job. Anyway, so everything is set back up, and this is live. That's what happened. So welcome to the Red Pill Nation Hangout, number 385. Rearson is not with us tonight. He's enjoying himself with the aliens. We all know what's really going on. So
all right, yeah. Go last.
Yes, you get to go last. But with me tonight, and we'll start out with Roger Hansen. Roger, introduce yourself.
The Hissinator.
Hello, I'm Roger Hansen. I do shows, I guess, on live with Roger Hansen, and I'm also on the Wonderful World of Weirdness, Wow Talk, Roger's Real Time Talk Show on Wednesdays. If you guys are interested in historical politics or stuff of that nature, I do stuff there. I'm also a gamer. I go by gaming. Infamous OG 1973. I have my own channels, Gaming with Infamous, things of that nature. You can find me on Skype, and you can find me on Discord as well. I'm on Minds.com, but I don't get into like Facebook and I've actually started getting more active on X too, by the way. So I've been doing that. Other than that, I don't use any of the other platforms. That's all I got.
All right. Well, I guess that would be next me.
That would be you. Yep.
Well, let's see. My name is Nicholas Horbakargus, but I go by my maiden name, Angel Espino. Mm-hmm. Don't judge me.
Go ahead.
Okay. I like walks on the beach with nice blonde women. They have to be born women. None of this 46 chambers of the genders. So I need papers, birth certificates, not like the Obama fakes. I need a real thing, ladies. You can reach me on my website, angelespino.com, for any more length and width that you might need info on me. Just go there, and I'll be more than happy to share private pictures on Skype, maybe even some videos. angelespino.com. My show airs every Sunday night live at 10 p.m. Eastern on angelespino.com.
Yeah, well, I'm the guy that'll give you a little bit of that extra length, a little bit of that extra girth you need.
Yeah, I'm only hung 2 inches, by the way, from the ground.
You know what? That's 2 inches you're lacking, my man. You got to get down to earth.
True that. I think the devil will hate me if I do that. I keep knocking.
Yes, I'm V, host of the Red Pill Hardcore Radio Show. I won't be taking it up the rear. I won't be taking up the rear soon, but I will be in the back of you guys. So, you know, I'm there for you. I got your back. And don't expect to reach around.
We got a bleeder.
There's something about Angel.
He was masturbating.
Yeah. Hey, if I had $1 for every... Okay, anyways.
Yeah.
Take it home. Naroki.
Yeah. Hold
show.
on. Okay. So the for those of you who don't know, I am at well, I'm only I have to go back and restart up my subscribe store. I'm at Patreon as Naroki5. I am at well, I do have a YouTube, but I don't really share it. I have YouTube, but I also have MGTOW TV, BitChute, Odyssey, Rumble, and Brighteon. I am also at Facebook, Minds, Gab, MeWe, TLB Talks, and Getter. That is it. Well, actually, I do have a locals. It reminds me, I'm going to have to get that local started up here at some point. But that is pretty much it for tonight. The topics are as follows. Topic number 1, Joe Biden, and I cannot believe he actually did this. Joe Biden has gone on the record as saying that he is not going to step down. Yeah, I am absolutely gobsmacked at that. But yeah, well, that's those are the Democrats. That's the current Democrat regime for you. Topic number 2, Twitter X joins WEF Far Front Global Alliance for Responsible Media, GARM, and immediately starts banning accounts. Then there's a rather, and this is because this is tied into number 2, immigrant sexual assault situation in Europe. And the reason why I brought this up is because a lot of the blocking that was done on Twitter involved the accounts that were covering this. Topic number 1, topic A is illegal immigrant from Niger was deported on a luxury private jet after brutally raping a 9-year-old girl in Saxony-Anhalt. 2, two Afghan immigrants have been spared prison time after gang raping 13-year-old girl in Malmö, Sweden. C, a popular account known for exposing migrant crime in Europe, Radio Genoa, was revealed that he is the subject of a racism investigation by Italian police. And D, the Publica was temporarily shut down on a wave of banning, aka what happened with Twitter over the weekend and GARM. Now, topic number 4, and this one I think you will find very interesting. Woke activist Neil Gaiman faces sexual assault allegations over a couple of women, and mainstream gaming publications are banning discussion of this. If you go and look at Neil Gaiman being investigated, you will notice that none of the mainstream gaming publications are covering this. In fact, very few of the actual alt publications are following this either, probably because it hasn't been given a lot of airtime, and I think I'm probably going to have to spread the word around about that, because Neil Gaiman is a... Topic number 5, Tim Pool owns local skateboarding community that banned him from event by buying the land and the park. This happened like literally in his backyard. And topic number 6, hold on a second. Justin Trudeau, and I was also pointed out by Rearson that Jagmeet Singh is also doing this, are choosing to not attend the Calgary Stampede this year. This is one of the topics that Rearson wanted to bring in, but he's not here tonight. So yeah, I got a bunch of Americans here who maybe don't have that much to say on it. Without any further ado, let's just get into the first one. And yeah, the order is Roger, Angel, and then V. Yeah, let's just keep things as laser as humanly possible here. But let's get started. So the first topic.
Now you probably heard we had a little debate last week. Can't say it was my best performance. But ever since then, there's been a lot of speculation. What's Joe going to do? Is he going to stay in the race? Is he going to drop out? What's he going to do? Well, here's my answer. I am running and going to win again. Because folks, I'm the sitting president of the United States of America in no small part because of you. Not a joke. In 2020, you came through for me. I'm the nominee of the Democratic Party. I'm the nominee of this party because millions of Democrats like you just voted for me in primaries all across America. You voted for me to be your nominee. No one else. You, the voters did that. And despite that some folks don't seem to care who you voted for, well, guess what? They're trying to push me out of the race. Well, let me say this as clearly as I can. I'm staying in the race. I'll beat Donald Trump.
In reality, 72% of voters say that they believe President Biden is too old. That's according to CNN's most recent polling. Voters have been saying this for quite a long time. The reality is that the Democratic elites are mostly late to acknowledge these age and ability issues compared to the rest of the public. The elites have been forced to reckon with it after the debate just 11 days ago.
Look at my career. I've not had many of those nights. It was a terrible night, and I really regret it happened. But the fact of the matter is, how can you assure you're going to be on faith that can intervene on your way to go to, work tomorrow? Age wasn't, the idea I'm too old.
The fact of the matter is, how can you assure you're going to be out on your way to go, work tomorrow? Age wasn't, the idea that I'm too old. Keep in mind, that soundbite is supposed to be reassuring to those Democratic supporters who have gone wobbly. Many Democratic officials with whom I've spoken are worried that President Biden and his family and his inner circle appear to be in complete denial, not just about whatever might be wrong with him, but the state of his candidacy right now.
All right. Now, I have looked at the polling numbers for Joe, and specifically, I have looked at the polling numbers for the state-by-state vote on the current presidential election. The vote really started to swing after the debate. Well, actually, it started swinging when they found him guilty on those bogus charges a few weeks earlier. But now that they've had the debate, what it's basically gone down to is that there's been it's gone from Trump sort of being over 270 on electoral votes to now, based on leading and potentially probably going to win. Like, for instance, some of the states, Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia, all of those states, except for, well, okay, there's a 1 percentage point difference in Trump's favor in Pennsylvania, and in Wisconsin, I think it's like less than 1%, it's 0.5%. The other thing, though, is certain other states that suddenly weren't in play have become in play for Trump. Oregon is faltering. Minnesota is suddenly very soft, although I still think they're going to go Democrat. New Hampshire is suddenly in play. Virginia has suddenly become a toss-up. New Mexico is suddenly in play. So it's like, if you go over to 270 to win, you would think that Trump is just barely ahead. But oddly enough, though, if you go over to CNN and you look at the CNN totals, it shows that Trump has basically got 335 electoral votes, as in Trump is going to win in a landslide. Now, I'm not going to cover the 225, the 2025 project, which just materialized out of nowhere. That is for next Sunday. But I will talk about one specific PSYOP, which kind of made the rounds on Twitter, and and Instagram, which was this poll which showed, with the exception of just a handful of states, that Trump was going to walk away with something like 365, 370. And it was really making the rounds in some of the conservative communities on Instagram and Twitter and so on and so forth. And then a couple of people stepped in and went, no, that is just one separate poll, and we cannot be, it's not true. Yeah, Trump, particularly if you, oddly enough, if you look at the CNN poll, Trump has got 335 electoral votes. But if you look at other, it's not specifically and completely in the bag. There's still Virginia, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. Those are the four states that are probably going to be the battleground states now. Now, it's a dead heat in Virginia, and Trump is in the lead in every other state, but only just barely. Trump realistically only needs to win one of those four states in order to get himself over the top. I've actually done a projection based on what I know about the mainstream media and how they're going to project this race as it goes along. And I'm pretty certain what they're going to try to do is try to convince people that it's a dead heat, or that potentially Biden is going to be leading right up until the time that the polls close, probably in the, well, you guys know it as the Western time zone. It's known in Canada as the Mountain time zone, where there's going to be a whole pile of states that'll suddenly go red. It's probably not going to be until 11 or 12 o'clock, because they will resist putting up Florida, Texas, Georgia, Virginia. They will avoid declaring those states, and Nevada too. They will avoid putting those states up as red until they absolutely have to. So we're looking at a possibility that even though Trump is way out front, and I do mean way out front, that he has, because it's Joe Biden, it's like way right in the bag, and the Democrats are getting really, really desperate. And it's very clear that there's been a number of people that have already approached the Bidens and have asked them politely to step down. I don't think it's Joe Biden making this decision. I think it's Jill Biden. I think Jill Biden has gotten I personally suspect that it's Jill Biden that has been making a lot of these decisions, and the people in the cabinet that have been making these decisions, Joe Biden is just there kind of like as a figurehead at this point. Like he occasionally he might become lucid enough to actually make a decision. But for the most part, it's the cabinet that's been making these decisions. And even more specifically, it's been his wife, which explains some of the insane decisions. But then again, we already knew that. Jill Biden specifically has become used to being the power behind the throne and the one who's actually making the shots, and she is not going to give that up for anything. And yeah, Joe Biden went out and publicly said on the record that he is not going to step down. He's going to keep running. And we already know that if he keeps running at Trump, which is probably going to be a good thing, especially with the issue not specifically dealing with Russia, but and a lot of people keep forgetting about this, but I covered this earlier this year I think it was about 6 weeks ago. BRICS is having which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, the BRICS alliance is going to be meeting, strangely enough, only about 3 weeks before the American election, where they're going to come up with the basis of a common unified currency, which will and since the petrodollar arrangement with Saudi Arabia is now over, and Saudi Arabia has gone on the record as saying that it will not stick to the petrodollar anymore in its financial dealings with its oil, and neither will any of the other OPEC countries. There is going to be a flood of money coming back into the U.S., which is going to drive up inflation even worse than it's already been driven up. And even, Trump might be able to do a sort of like organized negotiation to bring this money in and absorb it in dribs and drabs to sort of like mitigate the effect of this. But I mean, it appears for all intents and purposes that the Biden administration is just simply pushing for war. And well, no, the Democrats did this to themselves. To quote Jeremy Hambling from The Quartering, like these people, the hell was that name? Dianne Feinstein, like almost died in office. I mean, Mitch McConnell, has literally frozen up while speaking to people. Nancy Pelosi still mentally functional, but I mean, there's a lot. I mean, Bernie Sanders is still sitting on there, and he's definitely getting up there as well. There's a lot of old people in the House and the Senate that are not going to give up power until they become complete. Even if they're not physically firm, they will not give up power until they literally die. So, and I'm going to have to assume that Joe Biden is going to do the exact same thing. So what's happening here isn't that big of a surprise. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Roger.
Okay. I was checking out some of the things on here, and to me, I see this all the time. Like, there's a lot of this depends mostly on the independent voters, and for what I've seen when it comes to independent voters in each state, I think that there's a few that need to be paid attention to, and one's New Jersey. They have a 19% independent vote going in New Jersey. 40% is for the Democrats, and 41% is for the Republicans, and that's going to be real close. And you can see, like, a lot of these have that going on, but there's some that are just not even worth trying to persuade when it comes to like the Republicans trying to win over a state or anything like that. Like here in Illinois, I wouldn't even worry about it, because Illinois always votes Democrat, even though the majority of the state is red. But because Chicago has such a strong hold through voting areas, they've seem to always take the vote, because apparently there's more people in the city of Chicago than the entire state, So when it comes to looking at independent voters, there are some exceptions to the rules. You know, another one that I've noticed that really sticks out to me is Rhode Island. Now, they have a pretty close going, or they have a pretty big independent voters thing, and a lot of people overlook that. Now, Maryland, as a Republican, I don't think a Republican should even try to freaking win over Maryland. That's just the way they've been. They've always been more pro-Democrat than they have Republicans. But I do see Rhode Island as being potentially one that either the Democrats or the Republicans could have. And right now, 40% of Rhode Island is for Biden, but I could see the 33% getting margin. They focus on it. Now, like I said, it's usually these close or these large independent voters here in the United States that's been determining it. And like Iowa has an 18% independent voters rate, which is something I'd say to keep an eye on too. Once they get up to 18%, even 15%, all the way up to 20 some odd percent, they're states that you need to look at and keep an eye on, because here lately that's what's been determining who becomes president is the independent voters, whereas previously it wasn't that way. It was usually cut and dry. The independent votes here in the United States seems to be more important. Like for South Dakota, you know, Trump has 50% on the votes already, but there's a 19% independent voters group right there. So that's something that the Republicans would have to keep an eye on. And the same goes for Tennessee. You know, Trump has 47% there, but there's still independent voters of 24%. So you got these high independent voters in these certain states. Now, it's like I said, like in Indiana, okay, that's going to be Republican, no arguing about it. It's been traditional. Even this year, their freaking Republican vote is pretty high, even to this day. But then there's some with even small independent voting areas that could actually be something to look at too, you know. But they're not as many as what I mentioned, like Maine. Maine's one that has a high independent voter rate. That's 30%, and Republicans already have 45%. But anything could happen in Maine. It could automatically turn towards the Democrats. With some of them that I've been seeing, a lot of the high independent voters in the areas are states like freaking Kansas. Kansas has a high independent voter rate, and so does Kentucky. Let's see, Oklahoma, Kansas. I already said that. Now, West Virginia is pretty high, but that's at 59% for Trump. So you could pretty much say that's in the bag. And it's like I said too, like here in Illinois, we've got like 43% for the Democrats and 34% for the Republicans, and then 23% for independent voters. Now, the first time that Donald Trump ran for office, I was checking over the numbers for even in Chicago, and in the districts, Trump's votes were still higher than what an average Republican's votes usually is in the state of Illinois. So even though they didn't win the state of Illinois, he actually did get a lot of support here in this state. It just wasn't strong for him to take the electoral vote. So that's something that I did notice. There might be something that goes over on that actually changes. You know what I mean? So, and that could happen in a lot of these states because whenever you break it down to the districts instead of the entire state as a whole, then you start seeing a lot of the differences. But when it comes to Biden, I'll stick by what I said. I think the dude was either drunk or, something. I knew something was off about him. Everybody started talking about drugs and stuff and things like that. But I mean, for me personally, I feel like he was drunk as a skunk. He might have had some drugs on him too, but you could really tell. And the reason why I think that's the case is because, like I said before, is when he was vice president, he used to do videos on the website for the White House and on Facebook and YouTube. And each week he'd get on there and tell people what was going on. And I'd always say, it sounds like this dude is drunk, because he would slur and he would act just like he did in that debate. And nobody ever freaking took me serious when I said it, But now he gets in the middle of a debate and he starts acting that way, And even if he doesn't have problems with his age or nothing, I still would say that he was drunk or he was high whenever that took place, So with that, I'll go ahead and pass.
Oh, snap. Did we lose somebody?
Yeah, Angel had to go to the bathroom. So, yeah, go ahead, V.
All right. Yeah. Well, I'm actually looking forward to watching this debacle because it's absolutely, I mean, part of the, okay, so Biden having no real reason for his failure, he likes to blame Trump for everything that's wrong. He didn't fix anything that Trump may have broken. He took credit for all Trump's successes. And he proceeded to talk smack about Trump for not wanting to give up the White House. Now he's trying to do it. Poppycock, I say. Poppycock. It is absolutely ridiculous. Now, I was actually watching a video, most recent video that Legal Eagle did. For those of you who are not familiar with him, he actually created a channel. This guy, he's a lawyer, calls his channel Legal Eagle. He made a video because I guess he's some leftist or whatever. He's done nothing but complain about Trump on his channel, whatever. To each their own. But he went through all the legalities of the president's power. It's a 25-minute video. I can't actually talk about everything that he said. That would be damn near, that would take up half of the show. I'm not going to do that. But I will run it down to a couple sentences. Basically, the president can commit just about any crime he wants and not be held culpable. Now, that is something that's been in the back of our minds, that we know the criminality of these politicians and their immunities. We are somewhat aware of it because we never seem to get any justice for the horrific things that they do. But apparently more powers, these Supreme Court justices and these other politicians are actually going to get more powers of immunity than they've ever had. Is clearly defined what the president can do Yet there's no paperwork. There's nothing on the books that says what a president can't do. Now, this is all under the auspice of doing what needs to be done in the best interest of the country. If Biden wanted to, he could send SEAL Team 6 and go shoot Trump, murder him cold blood. There's nothing anybody can do about it. Nothing. Not a damn thing. So I find that to be extremely interesting. Because, and you know, Trump, in my opinion, Trump should have never gave up office. He should have stayed until things were fixed, especially with this rigged election. But yeah, no, if Biden does it, it's going to be okay because it's in the best interest of the country. He doesn't want to turn over the country over to a felon. This is coming from the head of the Biden crime family, by the way. I just think it's absolutely ridiculous. It's a circus. I'm starting to think that, I've always said, you know, government is not real, it's a game. But now I'm starting to think that it's so scripted. It's so fake that it's just, and we're all suckers for believing anything these a-holes say. I mean, it's just atrocious. It's absolutely atrocious. Yeah, so I'm gonna scream hypocrite if he doesn't step down, and I can guarantee you, if he doesn't step down, some extreme right-wing extremist will remove him from office. That's my hope, anyways. But I can't wait to see what happens. I think there's just more theater to get us all riled up. It's all a distraction, anyways, from what the real government's doing, the shadow government. So, I don't know. Let's just wait and see, I suppose. You're up, Nerd.
Are you done? Are you done? Yeah, okay, you're done. Okay, so yeah, I posted up two of them. Tegan Goddard, which I was gonna post up, but then it was sort of like, well, no, Tegan Goddard's map. It's either with the Tegan Goddard map, it's either blue, red, or blank. So all of the solid, like a lot of the states are. So I had to fix it. Like the way it's currently looking, as you can see, CNN has pretty much tossed in, which is one of the reasons why they've been pushing so hard for Biden to step down, because CNN has pretty much conceded the race altogether. They have Trump at 272. 270 to win, although they have it again. 270 seems to be really, really hesitant when it comes to when it comes to admitting that Trump is out front. Still has Trump out in the lead, but when you take in the polls, yeah, it's basically it's gonna be over 3. It looks like it's gonna be not well over, but it's going to be over 300 electoral votes for Trump. Again, I got to point out something that I am not sold on. I'm not Team Trump, although I get accused of being Team Trump quite a bit. And the reason why I would probably, if I was living in the U.S., which I'm not, but if I was living in the U.S., I would be voting for Trump because, you know, you need to, given the current political situation, the potential risk of war in the Ukraine, which he will have to deal with almost immediately, and he will also have to immediately deal with BRICS as well. You need somebody in there who's willing to negotiate and work out a deal, and that is playing right into Donald Trump's strengths. Biden, there's nobody. I mean, okay, Biden definitely doesn't have the mental capability of doing it, but I can't think of anybody in the Biden administration that would be capable of working out a deal. And I mean, as we keep hearing, and it's like, especially given what has happened over in Britain and France, and I know a couple of the people on the show are not really big on what happens over in Europe, but let's not kid ourselves. It will be important what goes on there. Britain and France, in particular France, will absolutely double down. But literally the first thing that the current new prime president of France said is that he literally came out in open support of Gaza. So yeah, we know what's going to happen there. Yeah, Biden, again, right? Given the current record of all of these old Democrats and some Republicans too, that are like literally holding on to office until they like die, I'm going to have to assume that that's going to be the case with Biden. Although I don't think it's Biden that's doing this. I suspect that it's Jill who is gotten used to the power and won't step down. But that's just me. But if there's anything else here, we're going to get on to the next topic unless anybody else has anything more to add on this one. Does anybody have any more to add?
Let's go, Brandon. Let's go.
All right. Let's go, Brandon. Okay. So the next topic. Now, this one was really interesting. Elon Musk brought in Linda Yaccarino. Now, Linda Yaccarino, I suspect, was brought in to kind of make Twitter a little bit more commercially viable, which means, unfortunately, and I think Elon Musk is finding this out the hard way, is that he's having to repeatedly go over to Twitter and tweak or investigate certain things that Twitter is doing. And then that's just the stuff that he's aware of. There's stuff that goes on that I could tell you about. For instance, if you go to X/Twitter and you try to type in hashtag red pill or hashtag MRA or hashtag MGTOW or any of those things, they don't come up on the auto spell. So yeah, there is definitely some leftists on there. There was abuse happening in regards to the community notes. It's been fixed to a great degree, but there's still some abuse going on there. What happened, though, is that Twitter joined the over the weekend, and it kind of like almost came in under the radar. But I mean, I noticed that there's a lot of stuff that happened on this particular show that is under the radar this time. It didn't get a lot of play in the mainstream media, which is why I brought it up. Linda Yaccarino has worked out a deal to become a member of the Global Alliance for Responsible Media. Now, when I went over, and I also followed Jeremy Hembling's lead on this, went over. GARM, or the Global Alliance for Responsible Media, is a organization within the WEF. Hence, there is censorship, the need to get certain individual content creators off the site. There's certain issues that they don't like being covered. And we get to topic number 3, I will bring stuff up that is specific. Gavin McGinnis got taken down. Nick Monroe's site got taken down. several other people got their accounts suspended again. Again, this was brought, including, by the way, the Publica. Now, the reason why the Publica got taken down is that a lot of these sites that got taken down is because there's been a lot of reporting out of Europe lately about, because with Europe has an even bigger immigration issue than we do in North America. There's been a lot of individual cases, and I find this rather ironic because feminists were the ones that were absolutely supporting these immigrants coming in, has been the kid gloves approach that was used on dealing with these immigrants, which we will get into in topic number 3. But a significant number of these sites that got taken down were taken down for reporting this. Here's the ironic part about this, though. GARM, or the Global Alliance for Responsible Media, one of their central tenets is to, quote unquote, protect children. Yeah, so you can see what's going on there. Again, Elon Musk was informed. Elon Musk went over and investigated, and Elon Musk had to once again step in and undo some stuff that was done by the team at Twitter under Linda Yaccarino, whom, by the way, is a member of the WEF. Now, I suspect that Elon Musk has Yaccarino on a very tight leash, and I think he's aware of what's going on with Linda Yaccarino's Yaccarino's leanings, and I suspect that he does kind of have people still at Twitter keeping eyes open. He still has people monitoring certain accounts on X, and if something comes up or something is brought to his attention, these people will immediately inform him, and then Elon Musk will once again have to make a phone call to Linda Yaccarino and go, yeah, you can't do that, change it. And it's like he's having to do this at least once a month. So the question that is going to come up for Elon, I keep in mind, I mean, I'm not, again, if you've been following me for a while, you know that I'm not super duper excited about anybody. The question that I got to keep wondering here when it comes to X is how long of a leash does Linda Yaccarino have? Because they are still doing stuff. Like what I'm seeing as a trend on Twitter is that they still keep trying to sneak stuff past Elon and the people he has. And Elon has to keep going over and fixing it. Now, I'm not sold on Elon Musk. And I think Elon bought X for Elon, and not necessarily to be free speech, although he's not pro-censorship the way Jack Dorsey was. I mean, I'm going to have to imagine that at some point, he's going to get tired of having to continuously go over to X and have to go over and keep fixing things, because this is an ongoing, regular issue for him. And I mean, if my gut, I probably will never actually get to speak to the guy, but I suspect that time is something that Elon Musk does not have a lot of. And for him to have to take time out of his day from all the other stuff that he's doing to go over and fix yet another issue at X, I suspect that's probably going to get to him after a while. And of course, yeah, the ban on the Publica was lifted, obviously, because Jeremy Hembling has a very, very good lawyer who knows how to get things done, and knows who to contact over at Twitter and knows how to get a hold of Elon Musk if he has to. But with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Roger.
Yeah, I posted the links for GARM. It's a PDF for you guys if you want to read it and everything. It's pretty disturbing actually, and it's like right out and in your face. I was kind of curious about it too when I seen your posts on there. I know what the World Economic Forum is, and that's just a bunch of crazy freaking environmental friendly hippies that like to hug trees and shit. And I already know that. But then I started reading this about GARB, and it's pretty interesting because it's actually pretty fucked up, to be honest with you. It's a global alliance for responsible media, and every single one of these people who are part of this organization is wanting to protect the so-called media from harmful content. So they've got like this global network of people who freaking want to determine what is harmful for people on the internet and what isn't harmful for people on the internet, and that's kind of what I was going at when it comes to what I was discussing with Art the other last time we were on here, because like the censorship is a lot more than me not following freaking the mandates of what YouTube says. You know what I mean? They want me gone. It's just like they want anybody who's not freaking doing things according to what their standards are. And it doesn't matter if it's harmful or not. They're going to try to find a way to make it to where it goes against their guidelines. For me, with John's platform, well, it's mine now too, but on Wonderful World of Weirdness, all these were freaking UFO and ghost sightings. And just because nobody got on these short videos, which, by the way, should have been protected with Creative Commons because none of them were over 3 minutes, But since nobody got on there and freaking talked while it was going on to alter it a little bit, they decided that it wasn't good for monetization. So they decided that since all those videos were on there, they had to be taken off in order for that channel to be monetized. And this is a freaking YouTube channel that had over 140,000 freaking subscribers. It's dropped down to 138,000 because I had to take those freaking videos and just completely delete them. And if anybody is on here and they go to that channel, they can still go see them at freaking Odyssey too. So I keep forgetting to mention that there is copies of them backed up on Odyssey. So I don't know, maybe somebody on here knows the channel I'm talking about, and if they want to go check them out, they can. But the thing of it is like some of them were lost too. Like this was like 5 years, maybe even longer. No, it actually was longer, 5 to 8 years of freaking UFO sightings. John went through each of them and freaking had them edited and looking nice and everything, you know what I mean? And they all had to go. So, and John didn't have the stomach to do it himself after all the stuff he went through. So what I basically did is went through and did it for him, and it didn't feel good to me either, But this is what these people are trying to do, okay? They're trying to freaking go in and determine what they think is safe and not safe for me and you to watch or for us to hear. And these are huge globalist organizations, you know what I mean? They're coming together to freaking try to censor everybody. One thing that really sticks out to me is this whole deal with Activision, and them the EU demanding that freaking Activision has their games on Ubisoft too, having all their games on the cloud, and that was the whole thing that determined if Ubisoft and Activision could actually do any kind of business in Europe. You know, they had to be on that cloud, and I'm wondering why is that so important, you know? But it makes perfect sense if you really stop and take a look at it, you know. Get all of this information on the cloud to where it's easier monitored and stuff like that, and controlled. So instead of having it like it is now, where you can just go on Steam and download everything according to what you want and go from there. Heck, you can just go on the cloud. You can watch it there, and of course, it's going to be monitored by these global organizations, you know. So that's just the way I see it. It's pretty fucked up if you ask me. But I guess that's the best I can get out of all this. I'll turn it over to V now.
Yeah, well, I think Elon Musk can save himself a lot of time if he replaced his moderators altogether. Okay, he needs to hire a legal staff to be moderators. Paralegals, they don't have to be full lawyers. Paralegal. Make them sign their employment contract, which should say that they will be politically neutral. And upon failing to be politically neutral, that's grounds for termination. These paralegals should be looking out for two things. First off, the platform needs to be made to follow the Constitution. Okay? First Amendment means something. Okay? Secondly, you have your TOS, your terms of service. These new employees should be well versed in the TOS and should be able to moderate or at least mediate with the platform's users. You know, they should be able to easily get rid of stuff having to deal with pedophilia, selling drugs, human trafficking, all those things of that nature. Okay? It's not their job to control the narrative like all the lefties that are still at Twitter. You should get rid of all of them. Somebody who works at this company is probably going to make more money than just being a part-time paralegal anyways. So if he values his time, he should do something of that nature. Hire a couple lawyers to oversee the paralegals as a supervisor and help them filter out through this kind of stuff. You know, people are like, oh, we need AI to get all these people off of here. No, you don't need an AI. You don't. You just need people with, like I said, a political neutrality and sensibilities. Okay? So that's pretty, I would say pretty easy thing to do, at least comparatively to what has been going on and what's going on now. So I hope he, he thinks he's so smart, right? I can tell you, he doesn't know anything about business, not like he should. So Luckily for him, he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, and yes, he's not a self-made man like people think. No, his parents were rich. Got him started on this track, okay? I honestly don't believe he's as smart as he thinks he is, or how he has the public believing he is. This is coming from somebody that has autism. You know, I'm higher functioning brain. Yeah. I think he's just a bit of a poser. But yeah, I don't know if he at least he thinks he's doing something for the people, then I think he needs some advisors to help him along the way, especially again if he values his time. If not, he's just going to be sitting at Twitter trying to babysit everybody. He's not going to be able to do it effectively, as we have seen. And with that, pass it back to you, Naroki.
Okay, so I got to point something out here because this is, and this isn't directed at you, V. I have seen this a lot in the manosphere, in any self-help group that I have belonged to, whatever. You talk about individuals who are, and it's not just Donald Trump and Elon Musk. It's also the head of Amazon, Jeff Bezos. It's also a couple of other people as well. And I've heard that, oh, well, these guys are not self-made because they got such and such. For instance, Donald Trump was, this is not, I don't know, I not 100% sure, but I believe Donald Trump was actually at West Point. So, I mean, anybody who thinks that Donald Trump didn't have discipline and didn't have academic rigor, just like Royal Roads in Canada, I mean, the as far as I can tell, the academic requirements to even get into West Point in the first place are still pretty stringent. I have heard, and again, this isn't directed at V. I have to direct this out at a lot of people. Yes, Donald Trump, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, a lot of these guys were born into, for instance, I know a lot about Elon Musk's background because a lot of Elon Musk's background actually comes from Canada. In fact, he went to Queen's University in the 90s. That's where he got his degree. That's in Ontario, by the way. So yeah, there's a very strong Canadian connection to Elon Musk, which is why you will see Elon commenting about the situation in Canada quite frequently. Because I actually think he might even have citizenship for Canada. I'm not 100% certain on that. The issue here is that people, yes, they did get a lot of money at one point, and that did kickstart them. They still acquired their personal Ford. Elon Musk did not become a three-figure billionaire because the money, that money did not just come out of nowhere. Same thing with Trump, same thing with Bezos, right? Yeah, they got a kick up. They got a leg up. They got a lot of cash. They inherited a lot of cash, or they had a wealthy relative that was willing to back them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, family connections and having a silver spoon in your mouth definitely helps. It does not get you to the level of an Elon Musk or Donald Trump or a Jeff Bezos or Sam Walton, for instance, or some of the other people. By the way, the Waltons are still up there as some of the richest people in the United States, even though it's now the inheritors of Sam Walton's fortune. What I have to point out here is that if you were using the fact that these guys got a major financial leg up as an excuse to not go out and do it yourself, then you are self-defeating. You know what? I mean, okay, yeah, you might not be a billionaire. Okay, you might not be one of the richest people in the world. You know, your net worth might only be, say, a few $100,000 or maybe a couple of million or whatever, right? You know, you don't compare yourselves to the richest people on the planet. You compare yourselves to where you were previously. The race is you versus you, not you versus Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. And, you know, it does not actually require that much. I mean, not necessarily mean. Do you really want to be living in the lap of luxury? But I mean, do you want to be financially independent? Getting to the level of financial independence, that number is not nearly as high as you think it is, right? But if you're using the excuse of Donald Trump or Elon Musk and the leg up that they got to get to where they were as an excuse to not try, you're the problem, not them. And again, that is not directed at V. I am directing this at people who keep using excuses to not even try in the first place. Right? It's not a race.
I agree with you. I mean, the effort is everything. I mean, everything that I have, I built hard work in a jingly pocket.
Yep, exactly. Right. It's not about being a billionaire. It's about being financially independent, and that number to being financially independent is not that hard to reach. And with that, we're going to move on to the next topic, which is kind of tied in with the first topic.
But can I say something real quick about Elon Musk?
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, before we start on topic 3.
Now, this is something that I noticed with Bob, though. She had an issue with a lot of people have a misunderstanding about Elon Musk, and you brought up a good point that I think is important for people to understand. Like, Bob Dub honestly thought that freaking Elon Musk was this poor boy who was raised up out of poverty and freaking worked his way up and became successful. And like, whenever she said that, I kept my mouth shut because I knew that wasn't true. You know what I mean? But like, that's something a lot of people don't understand either. Like, a lot of these people with all these good intentions and all of these ideas and stuff did come from freaking wealth, okay? And not only did they come from wealth, but they were educated by very, very educated people. Like Elon Musk's mother, I believe, was a freaking... She owned an emerald freaking mining company, dude, in South Africa. You know what I mean? He was wealthy before he was even able to freaking walk.
Well, I mean, he got into Queen's University, and while that's not the most prestigious university in Canada, it's in the top 4 or 5, right? Like, it would be like getting into, say, Duke. It would be like getting into the Ivy Leagues in the United States, Ivy League universities.
And
you know,
wanted to say it was, don't set your sight, even though it is good to work and try to become self-sufficient and everything, don't set yourself so high like Elon Musk and Donald Trump, because these people had money backing them even when they were kids, and they got a really, really good education, you know. So
yeah, Donald Trump went to West Point, man. Like, I mean, the academic rigor required to get into West Point is, yeah, it is difficult to get in to West Point. Like, it is a very rigorous academic. Like, the academic requirements for West Point are really high.
And his family was from Canada too, Saskatchewan.
Yep.
He was raised in South Africa, but his family was from Saskatchewan.
Yep. Okay, are we done here? Because we need to move on. Hold on a second. We're going to wait for this damn fucking, pardon me, that we had a motorcycle path, like, literally almost right outside my window here. All right, that motorcycle's gone. Let's move on to the next topic here. Okay, this topic is actually tied in to topic number 2, because I mean a lot of what happened with Linda Yaccarino and the banning, a huge chunk of it involved people who were reporting on this stuff. And given what has just happened in England and France, you know, like it is going to get a whole hell of a lot worse in terms of the immigration situation. The Labour Party has won in Britain. That's the left with they're the equivalent of the Democrats in the US. The socialists have won. A socialist centrist alliance has won in France, which is going to be even worse. And it's, you know, and this stuff, like these topics that I'm gonna run down here, and the fact that the publications that were reporting on these are either facing criminal investigation or had their accounts recently shut down by X is very, very telling. Okay, the first one, and I'm just using these as examples, and then I will get into the whole situation. This was an illegal immigrant. He's from the country of Niger, which is Equatorial Africa. He raped a 9-year-old girl in Germany, and he was deported. But instead of just throwing him on a plane with an armed deputy and just basically, what I would have personally done is I would have opened up the back of the plane. I would have just kicked him out, and I would have just had the plane take off again. That would have been me with someone like this. He got escorted back to Niger on a luxury jet. Okay, now we don't know whether he was being shackled down in this jet while he was there, and he definitely had armed guards with him while he was leaving, but it was like, yeah, he still got, there's probably a story behind that, but yeah, he got flown back to Niger on a luxury jet. Now, I'm going to try and take solace in the fact that they uncuffed this asshole, and then they just basically got to the tarmac, had him stand at the top of the stairs, and then they just kicked him off the plane and just pulled the stairs back up and flew off again. That's what I'm hoping happened. I don't think that's what happened, but I would like to think that's what happened. The second one was, and this one definitely made some news, and I wasn't going to report on it. I wouldn't have reported on it except that Twitter went and did what it did over the weekend. These two Afghan migrants raped this 13-year-old girl. Basically, they gang raped her. And if you don't know, this is not again, and I mean, I have to temper this with the manosphere part of me, because it's like, yeah, you need to believe, you know, it's like false accusations are a real thing. That being said, though, I remember at the start of, I believe it was 2016. In Germany, there was this it was very organized, and it was called it's called the Islamic rape game. It's called Tar Arush, and it was instigated in multiple cities in Germany and Denmark and the Netherlands and the lower countries, all at the same time. And it was pointed out by a few people at that time that to do Tar Arush, especially for them to do it collectively in all of these cities, but it was most specifically really bad in Cologne. You had to coordinate a large number of people on a large scale, and literally every single individual that got arrested back in 2016 was an illegal immigrant. The fact that these two people got spared prison and were not deported is kind of like, wow. I mean, first of all, man, the way I view it is that it's our house, our rules. And it's like, and while there I am a member of the Manosphere and I am MGTOW, I do not endorse sexual assault. And it's like, it's not open season on the women from these countries just because you're there, especially if you're there illegally. These guys should have been held in prison, and they should have been deported, but nothing happened to them. Now, the third topic, and this one I find was really interesting because I found out about Radio Genoa from a contact of mine in South Africa. But Radio Genoa is one of those sites. They're kind of like us, except a lot bigger, and they will report on migrant crime quite frequently. I find this rather ironic because Giorgia Meloni is running the show in Italy, but somehow the Italian police they went into the Radio Genoa offices, seized all of their equipment, and put Radio Genoa under investigation for racism and hate speech. And I'm like, what? And this happened in Italy. Again, this is something that I'm going to switch back to the United States. Like, let's not fool ourselves here, right? In the United States, Donald Trump is likely to win, and in Canada, Pierre Poilievre is likely also to win. Just because those two heads of state are anti-globalist, that doesn't mean that the mechanisms of government are all under their control. Now, they're both hopefully, they're both going to attempt to fix it. But I mean, yeah, obviously, Giorgia Meloni has not done her job in Italy because, yeah, this happened. Radio Genoa had their equipment seized, and they are there currently under police investigation in Italy, of all places. In Italy, Giorgia Meloni is, along with the new prime minister in the Netherlands, and of course Viktor Orban in Hungary. Those are the big three in terms of opposition to globalism in Europe at this point. Now, I was thinking that maybe Le Pen was going to win. I think Le Pen, because I'm absolutely certain that both socialists and labor are going to absolutely and utterly fuck things up over the next 3-4 years when they're in power. I suspect that they're going to come in. They're both going to come. The leaders that are going to come in ways. Hopefully, the new leader of the Conservatives in Britain is somebody along the lines of, say, Trump or Poilievre or Viktor Orban. But yeah, this C topic is one that just kind of reminds you that even if Trump is in power in the United States, or when he gets there, or Poilievre in Canada, that, the apparatus of state is still more or less under control of somebody else, and we need to keep that in mind. And D, and this is the one that I've represented to topic 2. And I mean, I got to point out that one of the people who is a reporter over at the Publica is Sydney Watson, who has done some really dishonest reporting when it comes to the manosphere and has ducked critics continuously. However, that does not mean that you discount everything that comes out of the Publica, because she's not the only reporter at the Publica, obviously. But the Publica was doing a lot of reporting about the immigrant crime and sexual assault situation over in Europe, and they got their account temporarily shut down. And then it got reinstated once it was brought to Elon Musk's attention, thanks to, of course, Jeremy handling over the quartering and his connections and his way of getting back through to Elon. But yeah, the Publica was one of those accounts that got shut down in that purge over the weekend. They got their account back, I suspect because of Elon Musk. But yeah, that's what happened. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on there, and it's going to get worse, not better. It is going to get really bad in France. Like France might not survive as a country with 4 or 5 years of socialism. Don't know whether Britain is going to be able to hang on with 4 to 5 years of the Labour Party running things in Britain. You know, the Brits are going to have to do the same thing that the Canadians did with the Conservative Party over here. They're going to have to seize one of the two major parties or one of the three major parties, and they're just going to have to like purge the leadership entirely, which is what happened in Canada with the trucker convoy, which caused Aaron O'Toole to have to resign. And I don't even want to get into what happened with Aaron O'Toole during the convoy. The short version of the story is that the trucker convoy started going over to Ottawa. Trudeau fled Ottawa and went all the way back to the West Coast on Sechelt to hide. Basically handed Aaron O'Toole, who was then the head of the Conservative Party, a silver platter to score massive political points. And he waffled. He waffled in a really bad way, and he was forced to resign. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Roger.
Sorry about that. I had to find the freaking unmute thing. Whenever you were talking about child abuse and stuff, that really brings me back to the thing. Well, you were saying that bad stuff is going to happen in France and stuff like that. And I mean, for me personally, when it comes to this stuff, I think it's been happening for quite a long time. It's just people are becoming more aware of it, because one thing that perturbs me is here in the United States, everybody jumps on this Pizzagate bullshit, you know what I mean? And like whenever you get on the internet or you listen to a lot of the stuff these people that are conservatives talk about, it's always about Pizzagate and the mysterious cult that's doing all this shit. They don't understand that this stuff has been going on out in the open for a long time, and nobody really gives a shit. They don't talk about stuff like Hollywood freaking and the children that are freaking actors that have been exploited because of people turning a blind eye. Like they actually came out with a documentary. It was called Open Secret, and it was concerning children that were freaking actors, and they were freaking exploited and molested all through freaking Hollywood. And what would happen was they would be no names. They would get into the business, and these freaking pedophile freaking managers would pick them up and start taking pictures of them with their shirts off and shit like that, and post them up into magazines and stuff for people to see. And these pedophiles would look at these freaking pictures, and they would pick out which ones they wanted to freaking have their time with. And they've literally freaking found out that this stuff is true, and it actually happened, you know. And it comes back to this stuff was going on back then. And when they finally found the ringleader for that, and they were supposedly going to convict him, he was able to escape U.S. custody and travel to Europe. And he spent most of his life over in Europe without being convicted of the crimes that he committed. And the messed up part about it is Corey Haim was the one that spoke out about, or no, Corey Feldman was the one that was that spoke out against it, because Corey Haim ended up having that situation happen to him, and he ended up committing suicide over this shit, you know. And whenever they did an interview with his parents turned around and said, "Oh no, he didn't commit suicide. He had a bad drug problem or some shit like that." And nobody took the time to actually do research and find out that freaking his parents were horrible to him. It was all about making money for them. They didn't give a damn about this kid. They were a part of the problem, you know. And that those are the kind of things that bug me when it comes to the story about Hollywood and the things that are going on there, and people just turn a blind eye. Now, Corey Feldman actually went on to The View and was talking to those women about this situation. And that redheaded woman, the heavy-set woman, she's really freaking obnoxious as shit. Just straight out was point.
Joy Behar, yeah, I can't stand her.
She was point blank calling him a liar and said the shit never happened. Okay, so in my book, that tells me that she's a part of it. She's just accepted that shit as being the way it is, and she has no problem with it. You know what I mean? And the thing of it is I really did like Corey Haim. I thought he was one of Corey Haim. He was one of the best freaking actors of his time as a kid, you know. And today we don't have him around because he freaking took his life, and he had to live that kind of life. You know what I mean? And Corey Feldman, he didn't come from that good of a family either. They were treating him pretty bad when he was a kid as well. So that's one thing that freaking stuck out to me. And then there's another one that came out after Open Secret, and it's something if you guys are interested in watching it. It's called Quiet on the Set, and this one was actually one that got put out.
I got that downloaded. Reminds me I'm gonna have to upload those 4 videos to my alt platforms. And I've got them on video. I've got them downloaded.
Now, if you can, make sure you upload Open Secret, because that was the one that was banned. Well, it wasn't banned, but nobody will pick it up as a documentary. So it's very important to get that one out, because it has a lot of good information that people need to know. And with that, I'll shut up.
Okay, before V starts, I gotta relate a personal story that because what Roger was talking about with an Open Secret, he was talking about Digital Entertainment Network, which actually got its origins, I do believe, in the mid to late 90s. And got to point out here that Digital Entertainment Network almost became the Netflix. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me that a lot of the deviants over at Dan ended up going over to Netflix, which I will get to in a second. But I have a rather personal story that I want to relay about Digital Entertainment Network. When I was still living in Banff, and this happened probably about a month or two before I left, I ran into a guy in a nightclub not a dance nightclub. It was one of more of those sit down pub type places. And the guy was obviously gay and very handsy, and he got very handsy with me, especially when he found out that I was interested in film and television. One of the things he told me about was, and I found this either ironic because it was true, it turned out to be true, is that, you know, he like literally said this to me, there's going to come a day when the internet is going to overtake and surpass television as the viewing medium of choice. He didn't go into the specifics about which companies, but yeah, I'm involved in this company, and we're the progenitors. We're the ones that are going to be the first people to actually shoot content specifically for the internet. Now, at the time, I didn't put two and two together until I saw An Open Secret, and it was like, oh, that guy. And then I saw all of the other stuff around An Open Secret, and I was like, wow. Because, like, I mean, what I can recall about this guy is that the guy just gave me the creeps, and I kind of got away from him. But yeah, but I mean, that particular section of what he told me at the time, you know, it ended up being very true. It is getting to the point now where the internet is actually overtaking and is going to surpass mainstream television as the source of information for people. And that is exactly what's happening. But yeah, this happened early mid-90s. Don't know whether he was connected to Den, but he did mention that particular part of that he was involved. He was from LA and he was involved in this project. And based on some of the stories I saw, what happened to some of the quote unquote talent that was involved with the digital entertainment network, you know, it kind of explains why this guy was doing what he was doing. And it also probably also explains why, at least up until very recently, for instance, Netflix was rather permissive with some content. Cuties specifically comes to mind. And we did multiple episodes, multiple shows about, well, not whole shows, but we did multiple episodes and sections on cuties at the time. And that was a bit of an embarrassment because Netflix buried that involvement. But I mean, it was like, let's not kid ourselves here. Sundance actually gave Cuties, several prominent film festivals gave Cuties film awards for what basically amounted to softcore child porn. And there was softcore child porn in there. Like, there were outright crotch shots and shit like that of 12-year-olds. And one last thing before I turn it over to V, pointing this stuff out, because there's always one or two assholes that try to throw this out as an implication. Pointing this stuff out is not an uber duper secret fucking code that I'm into that, you know, or that I endorse it. Okay, you can fuck off with that shit. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to V.
Yeah. To the original topic here, I'm so tired of it. I'm so, you know, oh, some Arab did this in Europe, or some African did this in Europe. Get over it. The majority of the people doing this stuff is Caucasian anyways. You're not seeing it on the news. You're not. Majority of serial killers are white. Majority of pedophiles are white. Majority of these people doing these kind of things are Caucasian. Why does some instant of some minority need to be blasted all over the news 24/7? Yeah, no, they probably didn't get hit with the book like they should have, but that's on purpose to incite public rage. Now, you guys want to fall for a helter-skelter, go ahead. But I think it's not something that even needs attention. So I didn't even want to really touch the topic, really. So we can move on if you have nothing.
It's not about race. It's about the fact, because I mean, I will point out the fact that, I mean, it's been, I have pointed this out.
It's supposed to be
yeah, well,
I'm just have to
you know,
with you.
Yeah, well, then I guess you probably would have to explain the amount of sex slaves that currently exist in Africa, but we won't get into that. I will point out that the United States is one of the biggest is one of the biggest traffickers of a big one of the big, most of the biggest human trafficking rings are out of the United States.
Half of the world's child pornography comes out of the United States. Yes.
Yes, they are. They're one of the and there is definitely a culture, and by the way, there's an interesting book. I can't remember who it was who wrote it, but he worked for Interpol, and they did have, for a very brief time, they were having incredible success stopping these pedophile rings and all of this stuff. And then what happened is after they were successful for probably about a year or so, things started getting, busts started going south on them. People started disappearing. Agents within this program started disappearing. And of course also, and I know this from direct personal experience, dealing with pedophiles that don't want to come to terms with what it is they're doing or acknowledging the damage that they're doing, or in no way ever trying to seek treatment or help. Because I kind of put pedophilia in the same category as, say, alcoholism, whatever. There is no cure for it, but it can be arrested, and it can. There are ways to stop it, for somebody to stop it, but they have to want to do it. And I've been around people who've been convicted pedophiles, and I can tell you, man, trying to confront them on their behavior and trying to get them to admit that they've done something wrong or whatever. These people the best way to describe it is these people are fucking toxic. The couple people that I came across that were doing this, right? Like, they never did anything to anybody when I was around them, but I heard about some stuff that they did after the fact, or some stuff that they had done before the fact. So yeah, this is an issue. And yeah, the whole situation, it's not necessarily even about this particular issue. It's also about that fact that and I know this because I'm literally dealing with it in my life right now, right? Canada has been flooded with so many immigrants right now that trying to find a place to rent that's affordable is very difficult. It is actually consuming way more time than I thought it was going to. You have, in every North American city, you have a couple of what you call these sleazy managed property management companies buying up properties in neighborhoods and jacking the rents up, which is exactly what's happened with me. And, it's getting, I like the place that I live in, and I like the neighborhood that I live in, and it was probably time for me to leave the city anyway and move out to a smaller city. But finding a place, even out in the exurbs or outside of cities or in towns that I want to move to, has been a lot more difficult than it was the last time. This place that I found back in 2012, literally how I found it was I just basically walked out on the street. I just walked down this one particular avenue in this neighborhood that I lived in, and because there was a lot of apartments on this one particular stretch of street, and I just basically went into every building until I found one that had an opening, and then I just gave them the money and I just rented the place, trying to do that now is a lot more difficult because so many of these sleazy companies have bought up these apartments and they've jacked up the rates because they can. And with that, though, let's move on to the next topic. And this one is, you want to sort of, V wants to talk about white people getting involved in, engaged in indecent activity. Well, boy, do I have a topic for you. Neil Gaiman, not Gayman, Gaiman, is facing sexual assault allegations, and he's under investigation for doing it with a couple of underage women at a couple of events a few years ago. Neil Gaiman is part of the woke community in the sci-fi community. He was probably, I suspect that he was probably one of the biggest proponents. And if you don't remember what Sad Puppies was, Sad Puppies was the functional equivalent of Comicsgate, Gamergate, except it was in the sci-fi writers community, and it just kind of went silent after a while, because I think some type of a resolution was worked out. But I suspect Neil Gaiman was probably one of the wokesters in that community, and they were doing all of the same stuff that you're currently seeing with the gaming community right now. And Neil Gaiman was, and I have never read this book, but ironically enough, there's an individual who is actually a hardcore fan of the Sandman books. He's openly said that he's not a particularly big fan of Neil Gaiman himself, but he is a big fan of the Sandman books. In fact, he's such a big fan of the Sandman books, he actually named his channel after the book Sandman, the MGTOW content producer, the single biggest MGTOW. I don't say he's the single. Yeah, actually, he is the single biggest MGTOW content producer. Straight up MGTOW content is what he does. He's under investigation, and I mean, I did find links for it, but here is the curious thing, and this is something that obviously hasn't made the rounds yet, and I think probably does need, like, people like Nerdrotic and those individuals need to have this brought to their attention, because all of the woke comic book all of the woke sci-fi publications, all of the mainstream publications are not covering this. In fact, not only are they not covering this, they are actually running block for Neil Gaiman. Let me emphasize this again. This just right after we finish topic number 2. By the way, these publications, were historical champions of woke feminism during Gamergate, and they were probably, and these same publications were the ones publishing the lies about Sweet Baby Inc. and all of the woke consultants in AAA gaming, and that was only just a couple of months ago. So they were busy calling all of these people who were being critical of Sweet Baby. They were calling them a bunch of women haters and misogynists and that sort of thing. And then they turn around and they run block for a guy who's facing not 1, but 2 investigations for potential sexual assault. But they're not saying anything about it because he was one of them. He was one of the people who was anti-Gamergate. He was probably one of the guys who was anti-Comicsgate. He was probably one of the guys who was anti-Sad Puppies. And he was probably, and somebody did go back and look at some of his tweets, very pro-feminist, and undoubtedly was probably one of the anti-pro Sweet Baby people as well. And the hypocrisy on this one stinks to high heaven, and we all know about the hypocrisy involved, but yeah, they're running block for him. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Roger.
Well, it's like you guys got into a really good conversation in the last topic, and the reason why I kept quiet and didn't get involved with that is because that kind of bleeds over into what you're talking about here, and I don't know if you two are aware of it or not, but it really does, because the first thing you got written there is woke activists, okay? And you know, I'm cool with what you said about the conservatives in Canada and everything, because I really believe now, since me and Mark Edworthy's been doing Roger's Real Time Talk Show and talking about political history and the real politics that instead of the bullshit, what's going on, you know, because I really don't believe that a lot of people who think they're into politics know what the hell they're freaking talking about. And the first thing that conservatives need to figure out is what is conservatism. I had a different outlook on what being conservative was before me and Mark got into this. And last year we went over the United States Constitution and the government, and this year we went over politics in England. And first we discussed socialism, how it started in England, and then we started getting into conservative beliefs. Now, the thing about being a conservative, that has absolutely nothing to do with the United States and our Constitution and what we call conservatism here in the United States. We're actually built on a government that was founded by people who believed in classic liberalism. Okay, and our form of libertarianism isn't really even classic liberalism either. These are ideas of freaking you know, free trade, small government, things of that nature. Now, with Canada, the Canada especially is a lot different. Now, I had a real hard time understanding woke and all these activist groups, because I had this understanding that this stuff was new and that it was never here until just recently within, you know, historically. Then I started finding out about groups this year, actually, about groups that went by the name of radicals and radicalism and what that really was. So what it basically is you've got people who were classic liberals, and then you had freaking people who were radicals. And radicals were like the left-leaning group that believed in some of the stuff that freaking these liberals believed in, like John Locke and, you know, constitutional governments and everything. But they didn't believe in small government. They believed in reform, and they believed in progressive freaking governments and stuff of that nature. And that was left unchecked. And this went on all the way from the time the United States came into being, on through the French Revolution, all the way up to now. And it's had all that time to freaking work up and grow this whole time period. So people get that mixed up with what constitutional governments are. These were people who believed in that stuff, and they didn't have very much power, but they're actually getting stronger and stronger as time goes by. And when you look at people who are woke, or people who are modern day liberals, you know, or all of these other groups, they're not even socialists. That's the crazy part about it. And I always clumped them all together, and I didn't realize until here recently that they aren't together, because socialists, the only thing socialists want to do, they want to create a workforce. All they care about, they care about the unions, and they care about you know, people working and things of that nature. And they believe in, you know, reform and things of that nature too, but they're not into all of the stuff like, you know, civil rights movements and shit like that. They just don't care about that. And what they want to do is they want to set people apart. So it's easy to freaking blame the white man. It's easy to blame the black man. It's easy to blame everybody freaking so that everyone's arguing and fighting. You know what I mean? And we take and we distract everybody from looking at what's really going on and what's happening in the world, because nobody freaking really knows what's happening right now, okay? Because they aren't taking and researching and finding out what we should be talking about. You know what I mean? We should be talking about the fact that the economy is freaking horrible, and if we don't do something about it, freaking people are going to hurt. Like the elderly here in the United States, they're talking about freaking cutbacks on freaking Medicare, stuff of that nature, and taking care of the elderly. They're talking about all of the stuff that has to do with the economy that is falling to pieces, but instead, you know, you watch a debate where everybody's more concerned over freaking bullshit politics that has absolutely nothing to do with government and never should have been a part of government. I don't agree that freaking abortion should have even been a law. Okay, period. That's not anything that has concern with government and what government should be concerned with. Okay, we shouldn't have a government that tells you what you can and can't do with your body, and that goes for abortion. That goes for freaking anything that concerns my personal body as a man. Okay, if they can say that a woman can't have an abortion, then they can say that I can't freaking do something with my body. And we're discussing bullshit like fucking unisex bathrooms. You know what? I've lived in a house that's had a freaking unisex bathroom since the time I was born, dude. But all I gotta worry about freaking there being unisex freaking bathrooms in public. Give me a break, dude. You know, I don't give a shit about that stuff, and the government shouldn't freaking be making it a big issue. You know what I mean? Transgenderism and freaking LGBTQ. You know, come on, give me a break, dude. Is this shit really important? It's not. It never was important, but we have to freaking stay focused on that so they can freaking roll us over the freaking edge and take advantage of us behind closed doors and take away our rights. You know, because that's what they want to do. They want to distract us and create smoke screens so that we can focus on all that and not pay attention to what's going on here. You know, and I've learned something out of all this stuff. You know, it trips me out because I just found out that freaking that Canada just now only had their freaking constitution since like 1982. I never even knew that. Like, since they created the country or provinces within Canada, freaking, they'd never had a constitution until 1982. You know, and that just blows me out of the water. And I sit there and I think about that stuff, and I'm like, hold on, man, what's going on here? You know, and then I look at the history that goes along with England and how much influence that they had over freaking the world as a whole. And when it comes to Canada, New Zealand, freaking Australia, I've known people here in the last year that comes from all these places, and they've told me stories. They've also told me stories about freaking Africa and Rhodesia and all of the history on that, and it's horrible. None of it is good, okay? And this stuff has created an environment where the, quote, conservative party, unquote, has been overran by freaking, basically they're national socialists. And that's what it's come down to. Like, conservatism is actually supposed to be people who freaking care about their freaking traditions and their heritage and where they came from. And they believe that government is organic. It springs up organically. All right. But whenever you listen to these people who claim to be conservative, they get into the whole traditions and believing in your freaking rights and stuff like that. But about halfway through their speech, all of a sudden they start talking about, well, you need to give up individual rights. You need to come and be a part of our group because as a group, we're going to make change. And that's when you start seeing this National Socialist movement, which the majority of them are freaking white supremacists. They like to pretend like they're not so that they can get more and more people into their little group and they can freaking build up and get stronger. But that's basically what they are. They're a bunch of white supremacists. I like to call them the Fourth Reich. So I have a really bad suspicion that the conservative parties worldwide, even in New Zealand and freaking Canada and in England as well as the United States, our conservative freaking parties are being overran by white nationalists. And it's really disturbing how people are really, really occupied with this border freaking immigration bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Because conservatism doesn't have anything written. I don't think I've found anything conservative in any constitution that says freaking immigration is an issue. They do worry about the amount of people coming into the country because it does affect their heritage and stuff, but they never specifically say that it's an issue. The only place I hear that is when I read stuff about socialism and about National Socialism, to be more precise. That's where you get it, and I that's my take on the conservative part of it all. I really think that they're being overran by the white nationalists. That's all I got.
Well, all right, I'm gonna throw something in about that. Well, there is as the far left continues to get worse. There is almost almost a rebound effect. Everybody's kind of focused on how far left the left has gone, and they're not watching their own backs, and they're starting, and I mean, trust me, you go over, and V could back me up on this, you go over to places like Gaiman Minds and BitChute and MGTOW TV to a certain extent, but I mean, you go over to these places and you look, and yeah, they are free speech, but I mean, I have had to leave groups on Gab, on Minds. I've had to block, by the way, I've had to block black racists and white racists on BitChute. In fact, there's literally one guy, and he literally has a handle, BLM something or other. And I have a video posted up about Warhammer on BitChute. It's called The Strongest Race in the Galaxy. Now, those in V knows this. When you talk about race in regards to Warhammer, you're talking about human and non-human. You're not talking about human races, because in Warhammer setting, human is human. It doesn't matter whether you're black, white, Asian, Native American, Islander, whatever. I mean, Terra is just this massive hive city, and any distinctions along those lines have been erased millennia ago. But this guy, so I mean, yeah, when you talk about race in Warhammer 40K, you're talking specifically about humans, Eldar, Tau, that type, orcs, that type of thing. And this particular video done by one of these guys is known as The Strongest Race in the Galaxy, which, and in terms of sheer numbers for Warhammer, that is the orcs. Hands down, the orcs. right? I've had this guy from this one BLM channel. He has come up and he's posted up twice now. Well, the strongest race in the galaxy is the black race. And it's like, and I like the first time I just deleted the guy and I just forgot about it, right? But he went over and did it again today. And I had to like literally.
Did you ask him if he's familiar with the topic with Warhammer 40K?
Oh no, I pointed this out to him. Like, dude, did you even look at the video before you posted this up? Do you even know what Warhammer is before you posted this up? Like, distinctions of races within humanity is irrelevant in 40K. It's human, not human. And I mean, I had to like go, yeah, look, dude, like I overlooked it the first time. I just thought you were being stupid or facetious or whatever. And I just deleted your comment. But you went over and you posted this stupid shit up again. Like, do you even know what Warhammer 40K is? Did you even look at the video before you posted up your stupid crap? This happened today, by the way.
No, so let me add, it's not just Warhammer, okay? It's freaking D&D, all of it. It's okay
Yeah.
to freaking hate freaking orcs. There's nothing racist about that. If you don't hate an orc, something is wrong with you.
Yeah. I mean, there are half orcs. Oh, by the way, they got rid of, we covered this on our previous Red Pill Nation show. They got rid of the half-breed races. There's no half-elves or half-orcs in D&D anymore. But yeah, no, like this guy was just so stupid. So I literally had to go over and I had to comment on him, and then I had to post up a comment on a couple of his videos because he was just like, dude, like, do you know anything about Warhammer? Comment, because if you did, you would know how stupid you sound. Right? And yeah, you know, like just absolutely stupid. And right, yeah, B was right. Did this guy even look at the video? Does he know anything about the Warhammer setting? Now, getting back to Neil Gaiman and the hypocrite woke activists and the gaming media all looking the other way on this, I will now turn it over to V. Take it away.
Well, I don't know much about this guy. Now, these underage girls, were they actually raped, or is this statutory rape?
I don't know the specific details of it. I could look. I do know that there was some interaction. By the way, we're getting into both of them allegedly fell into that gray area around the age of consent between the ages of 16 and 18, where it depended upon where you are and where you wasn't. One of them was for sure there was some groping involved. I don't know whether it was actual full-blown sexual assault, but I could find out if you talk long enough. Let me just go take a look, and I will have you just talk away here.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, you know, I have experience. Now, people that know me, they know I like older women. But that's really changing for me because okay, so let me give you an example here. I'm not gonna give dates and times. I'm not gonna give locations and names, but there's this older woman that I was trying to see, and it was so difficult. Out of all the dating I've done in my life, I've never come across such a bipolar individual. She loves you one minute and hates you the next. Very dismissive. Wants you to adhere to her commandments and jump through hoops. And it's like, you know, this 50-year-old divorcee, not in the best of shape, lots of medical problems, unemployed. I mean, the way she treated me, you would think she had like this great choice of men. Like she could have anybody she wanted. You know, reality is striking quick. You know, well, if you're not gonna do this, then we're done. You know, first time she did that, it's like, okay, well, maybe I should talk to her. Maybe we can see some middle ground here. Second time she did it, I was like, I gave her a big spiel, and it's like, basically, you know, bye-bye. I'm not putting up with this. I'm not going to be punished. You got so much baggage. I'm not going to be punished for the mistakes of your ex-husband. It's not my debt. And if you keep putting that on to people that you're trying to date, you're never going to find anybody. Your time's going to run out. You're going to end up with somebody far worse than where you started. And it's, you know, I understand why guys are going after younger girls. There's no baggage. Not relatively, I mean.
Oh, amen to that, buddy. Absolutely amen to that. I could get into that, but I'll wait till after you're done.
Okay, and it was the I just had to sit back and laugh because, you know, it's okay, you know. While I was going out on dates with her, you know, the dates were fine. You know, it didn't exactly grab my fancy too much. I actually was more interested in the waitresses. You know, after it got done with her, I had to go back and ask out the waitress. Weren't you just on a date with? Yeah, I couldn't focus on her. I was too busy looking at you. So, young girl. I think she may have been like 22. So, I have far more fun with that. Yeah, they may not know very much, but at least they're willing to be easygoing and learn and go through that process of building a relationship. So I can understand why, and let's face it. Let's be honest here. Let's talk biology. Let's talk Mother Nature. When a girl becomes a woman, that period, guess what? She's a woman. Nature-wise, okay, biologically. Now, should they be getting hit on and sexually assaulted and things like that? No. They're still, Mother Nature says their body's mature, but for me, if I had it my way, I would raise the age of consent to at least 21. Let their brain develop some more. Because too many guys are getting in trouble behind these girls that don't know what they want. They don't know anything. A lot of times in these situations, they're complicit. Yes, they might be protected by the law and they legally cannot consent. But let's face it, they gave their consent a lot of times. It isn't until somebody finds out something. Oh, I got found out. It's time for me to act like a victim. Oh, boo-hoo-hoo. Yes, he did touch me. I can't tell you how many teenage girls I've had to throw off of me because it's like, I'm not going down that road. You don't know nothing. You're inexperienced in the world. You have no legal right I'm not gonna let you get me in trouble. Yeah, I I talk a good game. I tell girls who I am. Hey, tell me more about yourself. Oh yeah, you go to college ever? No, but I go to this high school over here. Okay, bye. Call me in a couple years. No, actually, as a matter of fact, call me about 5 or 6 years after you've had at least a couple boyfriends. So you know what time it is, and I don't have to waste my time. Hell, I'm getting old. I ain't got that kind of time. So for an old man to be, that's why dudes are not chasing older women. My fetish for older women is that's just, you would think that they're done with the games, the mind games. No, some of them are worse because of that baggage. So sometimes, I don't know, I don't know the mentality, but I'm guessing, some guys, yeah, they don't want to deal with that. And plus they think these young girls are easy. They can control them. They can have everything their way. No, you're not about to control some little teeny bopper. Especially when she figures out she's got you by the balls because of what you're doing. You might as well take a long walk off of a very short pier. Because that would be more merciful to yourself. With that, yeah, go ahead, Rookie.
Okay, so yeah, I took a look at this. Both of these were at the time, quote unquote, consensual. One of them happened right away, and the other one, so these girls were not underage. That one of them was 18, the other one was 20. The thing about both of them was, and this is something that I've noticed a lot with quote unquote woke males, is that, or feminist men, is that for some unexplainable, inextricable goddamn reason, like a lot of these quote unquote woke men are into really rough, violent, brutal sex, BDSM, polyamory, and that sort of thing. And when I was looking at this stuff and I was looking at what type of sex he was into, yeah, he's not just into straight up meat and potatoes missionary style sex. Like he's into like rough, violent, humiliating, degrading sex, which is not uncommon. It has been my experience, having encountered a few guys who are like this, there's usually some type of an underlying psychological issue involved in why they're like that. And, to nobody's surprise, I mean, yeah, these women probably maybe came up at different points or whatever. But I mean, you have to be extremely careful when you're dealing with, well, first of all, man, my standard is that they absolutely have to be out of high school and old enough to vote. Okay, in saying that, that's the basement. That's the basement rule for me. In saying that, no, that does not mean that I endorse going under that rule. Again, I always have to throw this in with something when I talk about stuff like this. It's not an uber duper super fucking secret code that I endorse going younger or that I approve of going younger. Right? I always have to throw that in because there's always some asshole out there. In fact, again, today, right, there was a old video that got released about Jeremy Hembling where he was talking about, and this is like previous to the quartering Jeremy Hamblin. He was talking about he working in this computer shop, and this one of the techs there found some kiddie porn on this one guy's site, on this one guy's laptop, and Jeremy Hamblin took this opportunity to remind people about how important it is to secure your computer. Somebody posted that up and tried to pass that off as an endorsement that Jeremy Hamblin endorses kiddie porn. And there's like literally individuals on this particular YouTube channel who desperately tried to stretch it out using this really twisted logic. If you apply this logic elsewhere, for instance, like if I start talking to you about, say, the history of the Nazi Party in Germany in the 30s and the tactics that they used, and I will point this out about the tactics that they used in, by the way, they're not even coming remotely close to anything like that in the West yet. But I mean, using the same logic, it would have that you could also take the fact that I was talking about that as say that I endorse the Nazis. So basically, if you talk about anything around how the Nazis got power in Germany, talking to certain individuals, that would be an indication that you actually agree with Hitler for whatever goddamn reason is. That's the type of individuals that we're dealing with here. And for whatever reason, these really strongly woke a lot of, I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of these woke feminists, writers, comic book creators, executives, whatever, these guys who constantly end up virtue signaling all the time. Like, there's a video out done by Sargon of Akkad called Beware the Male Feminist. It's like, there's just this continuous stream of progressive males that get caught in this. And a lot of them are really into like kinky, violent sex. Jean Gomeshi is another one. V has heard me talk about him quite frequently as well. This is a very...
You remember when I told you about all those guys, don't you?
Yeah, well, just for the record, just repeat it so that the people who are listening to the show will have a basis of what we were talking about.
Now, most of these men who run around calling themselves feminists, the real problem is they're pussy whoop, and what you're talking about right now kind of falls into it. Now, these men, they're pussy whoop, and they'll do anything. Got a piece of that snatch, and it's a chemical reaction in their brain. Okay, like most of them are freaking losers who never had a chick. You know what I mean? Mostly like computer nerds and freaking geeks and stuff. And what happens is they get laid, and all of a sudden they're willing to do anything for a woman. Right? These women are, by the way, are feminists. So all of a sudden, they're saying, "Oh, I'm a feminist too," because I don't have to be a woman to be a feminist, which is bullshit. Feminists are females, period, point blank. If you're calling yourself a feminist, you're just a pussy with a bitch. You know what I mean? That's the first part. Now, what you're talking about here is BDSM, okay? And you have the dominant, and then you have the people who are submissive. Now, the submissives are the men who freaking get tied up, put in the closet while their women are having sex with another man. And usually they dress them up like Spider-Man so that they can freaking sit there in the closet dressed up like Spider-Man watching their old women get hit. You know what I mean? So that's basically the relationship there. They got this perverse way of thinking. You know what I mean? And these are the same men that are running around calling themselves feminists. That's my take on it.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, so when we get back, when we talk about this issue, yeah, it's also the fact, and this is a very, very common thing. CBR finally caved in and actually reported this. I haven't actually gone over and looked at their actual article, but other than that, nobody in the gaming press, nobody in the writing press, other than the people who I just posted up here, which was Tortoise Media. And the bookseller. Very few people in the publishing industry have posted up anything about this. They really want this to just disappear, which is all the more reason why we should definitely be broadcasting it. And again, right? Yeah, it's a bizarre situation because, again, like I said, right, a lot of these guys, and when I was reading both of these articles that came up, right, a lot of these feminist men, these progressive males, seem to be into really rough and violent sex for whatever reason, which is weird because, I mean, Tate is the only guy I know in the manosphere of the prominent content creators in the manosphere who has been accused of doing that. And the one time that it was caught on camera, the woman that was involved in that particular video actually came forward and went and had to go online and say, yes, I did that. I consented to do that. Now, Tate should have known better. But I mean, again, this is a point that I got to mention before I move on to the next topic here. Guys, there are certain types of sexual activity. If your woman that you're with is into this type of, just like with certain guys with certain sexual fetishes as well, right? But if your woman is into like polyamory or is into really rough and violent sex or BDSM or like scat or anything like that, that's usually a sign. Oh, and certain others, like there's a few others too. There's a number of them, but I mean, if their sexual fetishes are really kind of creepy or weird, just like with women, right? If the guy's got an underwear fetish, man, you need to be getting the fuck away. Women, the few women that actually listen to my show, if you meet a guy with an underwear fetish, you need to get the fuck out of there, like right away. Same thing. If there's certain sexual fetishes that if women have, you need to change your number, move, and get the fuck away from these women because those women are bad news. And with that, I will move on to the next topic. Okay, the next topic is kind of interesting. And I mean, I didn't know that you had a connection. You had that close of a connection to Tim Pool there. But this is one of those cases where wokesters just absolutely just shot themselves in the foot. And this is like Elon Musk with Twitter, but on a much smaller scale. There is, and I believe this is actually in the town where Tim Pool's studio is located. There is a DIY skateboard park, as in it's a skateboard park. It's on private land, and the skateboarders went to the landowner, and they kind of made an agreement. The skateboarders agreed to help maintain and support the skateboard park and whatever, and the owner just kind of like lets them do it, right? Very easy, convenient arrangement. I've met a lot of arrangements like that over the years. This particular group decided to hold a skateboard tournament. Of course, this is Tim Pool's hometown. So, and these are skateboarders in Tim Pool's hometown. So Tim Pool put up a whole bunch of his own money as prizes for the skateboard tournament. The organizers of this tournament not only said no, but then they actually had the gall. And this is like doing this because Tim Pool is might even be a multimillionaire at this point. They had the gall to ban him from a skateboard tournament in his own hometown. And not only did they do that, but they went on social media and gloated about it publicly. Well, guess what Tim did? Tim went to the owner. He found out that it was a DIY skateboard park. He went to the owners of said skateboard park, the landowners, bought the land and bought the park right out from underneath these people, and then decided to go and hold a tournament of his own with prize money. The leftists everywhere, but specifically the leftists who were running this original skateboard tournament, absolutely lost their shit. And they could have just said thanks, no thanks, and just had the tournament. But no, they took it one step further. They banned him from attending the tournament, which they couldn't do because it wasn't actually on. In order for them to do that, they would have had to have gotten the owner of the land to ban him personally. So, and then they gloated about it. So yeah, Tim bought up. So it's now his skateboard park. It's his tournament. And of course, these leftists are busy fuming. This is one of those just feel good stories. This is part of the reason why, and I talked about this earlier when we were talking about Elon Musk and Donald Trump and Jeff Bezos and all these guys. You don't necessarily have to be a billionaire to have this kind of effect, right? Like if you have enough money to buy up property in a skateboard park, or you have the money to go and buy the building that a certain woke enterprise that has been smearing you for all of these previous years, buy the building and boot the people out that have been doing this. You don't necessarily have to be a multimillionaire to do that sort of a thing. Okay, yes, it is. And this they actually tried to pull this on. Yes, this is the capitalist system working. They tried to pull the leftist card on this, but it was like, if they had just simply minded their own goddamn business and just simply said thanks, but no thanks, and just let them attend the tournament and didn't gloat about it on social media, this wouldn't have happened in the first place, right? They did this to themselves. And okay, yeah, there is a bit of a capitalist streak going here. Tim Pool used his own money and basically to tell these guys to basically send a fuck you to these guys. But again, right, these guys did it to themselves. And, don't generally approve of double standards like this, but in this particular case, it's like, can I really blame Tim Pool? No, I can't. And I won't. Right? This is the reason why, though, why I'm striving towards it, and why Rearson is striving towards it, why V is striving towards it, and hopefully Rogers is doing the same thing, where we're all trying to strive to financial independence. So that stuff like this, if somebody tries something like this, and by the way, I've had a lot of money before, there's a difference. Like, one of the differences, and this is something that I have to point out, because some people seem to think that, having money turns you into it will reveal your character. But one of the things that it does for you personally, for instance, you can afford to get, if you get sick, you can go to the hospital and you can pay for whatever treatment you need. And also, if you have an asshole for a boss, it's like you can just look at that boss and go, I don't have to keep working for you. I don't need the money. Thanks. Bye. That's currently that's currently the mode that I'm striving for. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Roger.
Okay, so there's one thing that I did notice, and I brought it up in my comment whenever you posted this on Skype about Tim Pool. And me and Mark Edworthy, we actually had a conversation about this, and we got more in depth on our Tech Talk, which I have a video posted, I believe, on Skype if you want to check it out, about Tim Pool and Bill Altman. Now, the thing about Tim Pool is he's one of those cool guys, you know what I'm saying? Freaking when he started out, he had his freaking show, and he had the cool skateboard sitting in the back and shit, you know, he was all that. He was Mr. Skater dude, you know what I mean? Everybody loved him. But they don't really understand what was going on with him, you know. Him and Bill Altman were best friends for the longest time. They've actually been friends for quite a long time. They've been doing a side project called NCR and SCNR, which is a fundraiser. It's a We Fund funder where they pull up money to do their projects together. And they've even got a Get Lab set up to where freaking you can go in and see what's going on with all of that. And they've been doing these We Funders for years now, and like they had on August 2019, they freaking raised up $1,200,221. Okay, so this is how much money is being passing through their hands. And here in the last, I'd say about the last year almost, I haven't been really that big of a fan of Bill Altman's, and I've made no secret of that, you know. And when it comes to Minds.com, you know, I love the community, the people that are on Minds. I enjoy hanging out with them and stuff, but I'll tell you, people who are hired by Bill Altman and Bill Altman himself, they have absolutely, they don't care about Minds.com whatsoever. What they care about is bringing in business opportunities and having advertisement on the platforms. And that's all they care about. And I thought that this was something that was new until I went on Jaffe's show, and Jaffe and I believe David Kelso was also the one that pointed out the archives that Jaffe had, and his first Pirate Network radio broadcast was interviewing Bill Altman. And I listened to that archive video, and he was saying the same shit back then that he's saying today. Okay? So it kind of changed my whole perspective on what's going on here, you know. You hear all of this stuff about alt-tech platforms and how they're like break away from the man, you know, be independent and be your own person and boycott freaking PayPal and boycott blah 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 and all this great shit, all right? But the thing of it is none of that shit's true. It's just a gimmick, because they're wanting to suck you into their freaking platform so that they can freaking get a following. And all they're using all that stuff for is a gimmick. It's the same shit on a different day on a different platform. And I've been actually freaking checking all that stuff out, and it blew me away whenever I found this stuff out about Pool, because I didn't know that he was friends with Bill Altman and they were doing stuff like that. I posted the links to some of the stuff that he's actually involved with that concerns Bill Altman. Him and Bill Altman are, I believe Bill Altman is the co-founder of SCNR, of the SCNR project. And he also is involved with another thing called the Subverse Inc. And right now, Subverse Inc. is using the Minds Network, which is the new setup they've got. They've taken and got. They're planning on getting rid of the tier system, and they're creating networks where you can go in and you can use a network through Minds, which basically looks just like Minds, but you have complete control over it. You can change it around and make it look the way you want to, change the names, but in reality, it's just you changing Minds.com to where it looks like yours, and then you use it for your own website, and it'll look and it'll look just like what Minds does basically. And they've gone in there and they've set up a network with Minds, and they're doing work through that. So that's what I found out about Tim Pool. So he's not really exactly what I would consider being, somebody that I would be sympathetic towards, because people came and took away his, skateboard community, and he poor guy, you know what I mean? Bill Ottman strikes me as a person who has money too, you know what I mean? And I don't understand why they can't pull this shit out of their own pockets and frickin', instead of starting a frickin' WeFundMe account and having other people pull it out of their pockets. I think that's pretty messed up. If you got the money to do it, and walk the walk, and talk instead of just talking the talk, and make it grow. But at the same time, you shouldn't be asking everybody else to frickin' do it, Bill Ottman started Minds.com with this idea that everybody was supposed to frickin' have like this free place to go where you didn't have to frickin' worry about censorship and shit like that. And to some extent, it is that way, but frickin' he compartmentalized shit because he kept getting liberals coming on there, and conservatives coming on there, and racists coming on there, and all this other crazy shit. So he started compartmentalizing it to where you only seen this and that, and this and that, and it went from there and just started spiraling down, getting worse and worse. Today, I'm on Minds Plus, okay, but the moment my account frickin' stops, I stop paying for it. Like, I'm not gonna get another frickin' subscription to Minds Plus. It's going to regular Minds, and when that happens, I'm not gonna be networking on there anymore, because the platform itself is horrible. They don't maintain it and do what they're supposed to be doing with it. And this is a platform that's been out since like 4 or 5 years after frickin' Facebook started. So they've been there for a while, and it really irritates me, because I started on Minds.com back in 2017, and they haven't really done much when it comes to improving it. So that I'm gonna shut up.
Okay, V,
Yeah.
you're up.
Well, something that we said, or I said a couple nights ago when we recorded, how Angel was saying, boycott, boycott, boycott. But I was saying, if you're going to boycott, you need to be able to replace what you're boycotting. You need to, not just as, something for yourself, but you need to replace it for the infrastructure. So the economy doesn't collapse, that sort of thing. So, yeah, I mean, I live for stuff like this. This is what I'm talking about. Yeah, taking that money. Oh, you don't want me here? Yeah, I'll just buy the place. How about that? That's the kind of mentality that I have. Yeah. That's what I want to do. That's what I do. yeah, I mean, I do have my financial independence. Yes, I have tlbtalk.com, free speech social network. Yeah, I mean, I don't answer to anybody. I don't have a boss. I haven't had a boss since I left the Army. I was mostly self-employed before I went into the Army. So, nah, screw that. I'm going back to being self-employed. Because that was a terrible, terrible mistake going into the military. Terrible. I don't know why. I hope. Anyways, this is where it's at. Now, making millions of dollars on YouTube, I mean, if I were Tim Pool, screw that skate park. That's peanuts. I know he's trying to prove a point, but I don't know why. It's not just Tim Pool. I don't know why any YouTuber, with all the YouTubers who have become millionaires and multimillionaires, and then they complain about YouTube censoring them. Make your own platform. Make your own video platform. TLB Talk took less than $100,000. Initially, much less than that, but of course, cost occurs and as things go on. So, you have $1 million. You can create your own tube. Call it whatever you want. Game tube. Yeah, I was going to say trans tube, but I'm pretty sure it's probably already a porn site or something. Whatever it is that you're into, create your own tube. There are other tubes out there, like Huge Tube. They have millions of people on that platform watching videos. It's not just Rumble or anybody else. So I don't know. I'm kind of weirded out by that, to be honest with you. To make millions on YouTube and then not go and create your own platform where you can keep 100% of the money that you make. Not having to split it up with YouTube, the government, your whoever. Yeah, you might have to pay your staff, whatever. But it's better to be in control than underneath the thumb of somebody else. And I'm so happy, Tim, at least, it's a flex, but he could be doing way more productive things with his money. He should have created his own, like, InfoWars type of thing. That's what I plan on doing. And I'll say Sandy Hook is a hoax all I want to. Somebody's going to try to sue me. I'm going to get the best constitutional lawyer in the world. Well, in the United States, right? Because that's, free speech. I'm entitled to an opinion. Even if my opinion is wrong. If I want to say the sky is red, who's going to sue me for saying that? Oh, Sandy Hook was a hoax. Well, it was a false flag, but whatever. Come at me, bro. Come at me. I'll have my stuff in so many shell companies and LLCs, it'll make your head spin. It'll take a whole bunch of firms. That's one lawyer. It'll take a whole bunch of firms just to come at me. That's how he should be playing the game. So, yeah, that gives me a little hope, just a little spark of something, a little hope. That we can move on.
To be honest, I think it's just a promotion. It's just publicity. Because, like I said, what I was trying to get at with Bill Altman and him is, like, he's kind of doing what you're saying right there. You know what I mean? And this would give him a little bit of publicity to where he can push his project further, because
That's possible.
it's like you said, it's worthless. I mean, it's petty. You know what I mean? He's worried about a skateboard freaking community when he's got all that money. You know, it doesn't sound right, and I really don't have much sympathy for him. The dude's sitting there with billions of dollars and pissed off because his skateboard community has been taken away from him. That's a load of shit, you know? That's just my opinion.
Okay, yeah, I don't know, man. For me, it's like, yeah, some woke idiot. In fact, it did literally happen to me, and yeah, that is a siren in the background there. Because what ended up happening is we had a local community here decided that they were not going, they weren't going to have any more of the the rainbow sidewalks. They weren't going to put out any more money. Oh, for fuck's sakes. Okay, yeah, never mind. All right, it's the other way now. And the whole thing around that was, what ended up happening is that on this film community board that I run, a group that I run on this one social media channel, I had this one individual, and I had this dude had pulled multiple stunts with me to try to undermine the group that I was building up at the time. And he posted up at the particular group that he was running, well, let's all just ban the artists from this community for the vote. And it was like, in my response to him was, and I posted it back on my channel, is that no, there will be no cancel culture in this community. I am not going to go along with that. And I'm just publicly announcing that I am not going to support this other person's attempt to ban artists from this community just because of a vote that they potentially probably, for the most part, they were probably voting in favor of the crosswalks to boot, right? And the flag. And I had to, most of the people who came after me, I had to block. And I had to block, I had to go back in and block them because, I mean, at the time there was one particular individual who wasn't a member of the group, and you can't comment on this particular film group that I run unless you're a member of the group, right? So this guy was invited in, and this guy came in and started screaming and yelling at me. And then what ended up happening is, over the next couple of weeks, I noticed that certain individuals were no longer posting up content at my Facebook group anymore, or they had unfriended me, and it was like I had to go back in that group, and I had to, like, literally ban a huge number of people from the. I had to ban and block a certain number of people from the group because because what they had done is that they were trying to cancel culture me because I wasn't going along with their cancel culture, literally and figuratively. And I had to go in and go, okay, you know what? If you're going to do that, then here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to remove you from the group, right? So, yeah, these particular individuals that we're dealing with, the wokesters, will find whatever reason. Excuse me for a second.
And they're just
Yeah.
they're like You talk about homosexuals. We're just gonna have to send out the homo police.
Don't know what it is with the goddamn ambulances tonight, but they just keep running by like on a regular basis. And they were like, and like a bunch of people, and then basically what they tried to do, they tried to cancel culture me, right? So yeah, okay, it's a bit of a flex, and yeah, it's not what say V would have done or whatever, and it was a bit of a flex, but yeah, I get it, right? You need to sometimes put these individuals that try to do this shit, because yeah, it wasn't the fact that they said no, but they actually gloated about it, which is what they'll do. And yeah, okay, was it necessarily the best thing to do? Maybe, maybe not, but it's sort of like, yeah, it's good to see individuals like this who cannot get beyond politics or personal opinions to get these guys to get their one-uppance. That's just me. And with that, we're going to move on to the last topic of the night, which is Justin Trudeau. Yes, I know you guys just love Justin Trudeau. Just like, how, whenever you compare him to a useless pile of shit, you then have to find a useless pile of shit and apologize to the useless pile of shit for comparing him to Trudeau. That kind of love. And I know you got that kind of love for my prime minister, and I can hardly blame you. So there is an event going on, which I actually will be heading down to either tomorrow or Wednesday, because I'm actually off for 2 weeks again, because of what I told you at the start of before the show started, called the Calgary Stampede. It is a very big event in Calgary. You getting hotel rooms when you're in town for the Stampede is exceedingly difficult, although I never had any problems getting a hotel room. It's a fun event. It's basically a big, huge, giant rodeo, for lack of a better term. It's the second largest. It used to be the largest rodeo in North America. It's now the second largest after the Rodeo Nationals in Cheyenne. And it was a mandatory stop for political leaders, regardless of stripe, on the local, provincial, and national levels. They would all have to come out and they would have to put in an appearance, because it was kind of like almost mandatory. So it got canceled for a couple of years, but last year, Jagmeet Singh showed up, who's the leader of the New Democrats. Justin Trudeau showed up. And what was pointed out about Justin Trudeau is that they had to let Justin in the back way, and they had to escort him discreetly through a kids area, because if he had just gone in the front entrance and walked over publicly to the stage and started talking, he would have been booed and heckled out of the Stampede, because Justin Trudeau is just so well loved in Calgary, in Alberta in general. Same thing. Jagmeet Singh got a slightly less negative response last year, but he did show up. One of the more famous events that occurred at the Calgary Stampede was the former premier of Alberta, whose name I cannot remember. It's not Allison Redmond. Jeez, I wish Rearson was here, because this was the topic that Rearson wanted to talk about. Jason Kenney. Jason Kenney, at the Stampede, when he was asked about vaccine lockdowns at the Stampede, what he said is, well, we're against that. There are civil rights violations. And then he proceeded about 3 months later to impose a strict lockdown, which only lasted until the convoy started. It was only in place for about 3 or 4 months, but it was locked down. I literally could not go to a coffee shop, to a restaurant, go watch a movie, whatever. Those got lifted right away. But I mean, it was still in place, and he said the stuff about him not instigating that lockdown at the Stampede. Well, guess what? Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh decided that they weren't going to go to the Stampede
because he might be gone before I arrive. There's talk of him heading the road real soon, eh? Do you hear about that by-election in Toronto? People in Toronto voted because he's not worth the cost. They wanted common sense conservatives instead. And ever since, Justin Trudeau has been in panic mode. He's not here at the Stampede, is he? Nobody's seen him around. Is anybody missing him? But don't feel offended, Calgary, that Justin Trudeau is hiding from you. He's actually hiding from his own caucus. Terrified to meet with the people who are supposed to be his greatest supporters. Soon, you can imagine a caucus meeting of the NDP Liberals in a phone booth with just Jag and Justin. Oh my goodness. Oh, Justin's in a lot of trouble now, eh? As Maggie Thatcher said, the problem with socialism is eventually you run out of other people's money.
You see, Justin Trudeau is very big, bad, and brave about flying into Calgary and doing an interview at CBC or doing a podcast and then not informing Daniel Smith, our premier, and then getting on the plane and flying back immediately and not informing Daniel Smith of what he's doing. If he had showed up at the Stampede this year, undoubtedly several political figures would have used that as an opportunity to take some serious. It would have been a little bit embarrassing because one, he would have been absolutely booed out of the Stampede. Justin Trudeau is not popular in Alberta in any form or fashion, and neither is Jagmeet Singh, but to a lesser degree. And it's like, if you cannot, for instance, if Joe Biden, Biden gets heckled a little bit when he goes to Texas, but I don't think he is as disliked in Texas or Florida as Justin Trudeau is disliked in Alberta or most of the provinces or the interior British Columbia out west. Pierre Poilievre showed up at the Stampede. And again, right, this is an example of what would have happened with Pierre Poilievre versus Aaron O'Toole. Aaron O'Toole, and I went over this earlier tonight, Aaron O'Toole waffled when Justin handed him a silver platter to take shots at him. Pierre Poilievre, if you hand him a silver platter, and that's literally what Justin Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh did, was hand him a silver platter to take political pot shots at Justin, Pierre Poilievre will absolutely take them. And he did. And again, right, as a Canadian and an Albertan, it was a beautiful thing to see. It's a beautiful thing to see that Justin Trudeau is such a sniveling little fucking coward that he can't even show his face. The only way he could show his face in either Calgary or Edmonton is to clandestinely fly in, do an interview, hop back in his limousine, and fly out before Daniel Smith or any other politician in Alberta has the chance to find out he's even there. So yeah, no big surprise. He didn't show up. And Yeah, he's gone unless he's not going to be the prime minister in a little over a year, maybe even sooner. If as soon as Jagmeet Singh qualifies for his pension, he might just decide to grow a spine and force Justin to call the election early. So yeah, Justin is on his last legs. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Roger.
The weird part about all that is like with Trudeau. Well, I was taking pot shots at Jaffe the other day because of Trudeau, because like Jaffe's gotten to the point where he's starting to accuse Trudeau's freaking mom of actually having an affair with freaking Castro. So he thinks that freaking.
Oh, Rearson is of that opinion as well, and I keep pointing out to both Rearson and Jaffe that if you look at Pierre Trudeau, Justin's father, at the same age that Justin is now, and you put them side by side, Pierre bears a very striking resemblance to Justin, except, of course, that Justin has hair and Pierre didn't. Now, to be fair, part of the reason why this comes up is the fact that there's a suspicious birth cycle that occurred around Pierre and Margaret Trudeau's visit to Cuba and Justin's birth, for one, and the fact that Justin has the same shape of face as Fidel Castro. Of course, Pierre Trudeau also has the same face. Sorry, Roger, did I make you leave? Okay, well, you know what? Sorry if I made you leave. I don't know what happened there, but I guess you're up. Take this topic out.
Yeah, well, I mean, Biden is he's a corrupt invalid. What's your excuse for Trudeau, huh?
Stupid, corrupt drug addict.
Yeah. We need him out of office for sure. That's Trudeau about Trudeau. Definitely. His popularity, I mean, do you have term limitations there?
No, we don't. In fact, his dad, Pierre, was effectively de facto prime minister from 1960, with a brief 9-month interlude where Joe Clark was the prime minister. He was effectively prime minister from like 1968 all the way through to like 1984.
So you got a soup of corruption that just marinates. So that's why he's all into kissing the New World Order's butt to make sure he stays in power. So with a system like that, oh wow, you guys got your hands tied. Because there's no way anybody's going to vote for him again. Not that voting does anything, because they'll fix it to where he stays in office anyways, right?
Well, it's a little bit more difficult to fix the election system in Canada as opposed to the U.S. because it's not based on states; it's based on seats. But that's it's a little bit more difficult. But yeah, I mean, there are ways to do it, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, we got Roger back. I'll let him take it out. Go ahead, Roger.
Well, all I wanted to say at the end of that, before we got cut off, is is like I do find that pretty messed up about that, because isn't the Stampede supposed to be in celebration of the soldiers returning from World War I?
I don't know the whole background of the origins of the Stampede. I do know that it was at first up until the 80s, late 80s. The Calgary Stampede was the single biggest rodeo stampede in the world up until the Rodeo Nationals.
I'm not endorsing it because I despise this show. Passion. My mom is old and senile, and she loves to watch Heartland over and over and over again, and it drives me nuts. And I think that's the worst show that you guys ever came up with.
That was at Heartland? Oh, God, I could never watch that show.
But I did learn from that one thing about the Stampede, because they're all into the rodeo on that show. And I do find that that's pretty insulting, because not only is it because of that, but because of his family background. His father is the one who brought the Constitution to Canada, you know what I mean? So it's his responsibility as his father's son to frickin' show up, just to show that he does care, because that's a big deal. At least that's my opinion.
Oh, yeah, and you would be right. It is his obligation to show up. This is one of the biggest. I mean, every place has got its own particular event that stands out. For, strangely enough, for Edmonton, the biggest single event that occurs in Edmonton, that one that gets recognized worldwide, is the Fringe Festival, and the Prime Minister has never showed up to attend, at least not that I can recall, has never showed up for the Fringe Festival. Although keep in mind, the Edmonton Fringe Festival is nowhere near as big as the Calgary Stampede. But I mean, Toronto was the Canadian National Exhibition, you know, in Vancouver, it's the Pacific National, but I mean, every city in Canada, and basically there's like probably like that in every city in the US too. There are events that occur in every one of these places that that it's kind of like necessary, if not necessary, for the local politicians to show up, but sometimes if they're big enough, like the Calgary Stampede, where the national politicians have to show up. But yeah, massive show of cowardice on the part of Justin Trudeau. I'm not overly surprised. Also, a massive show of cowardice for Jagmeet Singh. Now, I'm sure if Rearson was here, he would have a lot more to say on it, but he's not here tonight. So, you know what? Unless any of you guys have anything more to say, we are done for tonight. Any parting words before I call it a night?
Don't tie your husband up and dress him up like
Join me on TLBTalk.com, ladies and gentlemen. Freedom of Speech Social Network. Don't come out there being an a-hole or a racist, because, well, you just make yourself invisible at that point. So, yeah, come along, share your views, and be a part of the community.
Roger?
Also, I just want to mention that everybody on your thing, because we all have a habit of not doing this. You can contact us through Skype. We are all on Skype. We've got our own groups. So Roger Hansen, B, the host and executive and technical director. If you guys aren't interested in that. And then Naroki 5, which is always on here. He's got shitloads of freaking red pill stuff. So check us all out on Skype, and this is where you want to come to if you want to get involved in stuff and talk and have a conversation. I just wanted to say that because I got so many freaking channels. I'm sick of saying them.
Yeah, I've noticed. For those of you who don't know, so you can support me on Roki 5, and yeah, I got 2 weeks off now, so I'm going to have to take some time out to start posting up stuff there at Patreon, and maybe even get my Subscribe Star back up and running again. YouTube, MGTOW TV, BitChute, Odyssey, Rumble, Brighteon in that order. In terms of number of subs I've got, by the way. In terms of other social media, Facebook, Minds, Gab, MeWe, Getter, and of course Skype and TLB Talks. That is it. Thank you all very much for listening tonight. I have got some photos to download for the slideshow. When I post this out,